piano to forte, the history of how the piano changed music. The monochord was used by mathematicians for experiments on the relationship of mathematics and musical sounds.
The clavichord was the first known keyboard instrument. The soundbox was rectangular with strings inside.
A brass clip that plucked the strings when a key was pressed produced the sounds.
The harpsichord was invented during the Baroque period of music in the 1600s. It had a much larger case, greater soundbox, and number of keys.
Its volume was much greater than the clavichord, but the sound produced by the harpsichord was harsh, raw, and metallic. It was used often in orchestral works, but solo performance was unsatisfactory. The pianoforte came quietly into existence around the year of 1700 by the hands of Bartolomeo Cristofori in the sleepy town of Padua, Italy. He invented the first piano almost entirely by himself.
The instrument resembled a harpsichord but had a larger case for much heavier strings. When a key is pressed, a hammer strikes the string, which vibrates and produces the sound.
This sophisticated hammer action is the essence of the pianoforte, along with its ability to create dynamic fluctuation by pressing the keys harder or softer. In Italian, piano means quiet and forte means loud. This is how the name pianoforte came into use, because of the pianoforte's ability to create loud and soft.
Cristofori finished his pianoforte design during the 1720s. His piano was 4 octaves, about half the octaves of the modern piano. His design also included the use of dampers, which silence the string once the key is no longer being pressed.
Cristofori's design was not perfect. It would take almost 200 years to perfect the pianoforte.
The Baroque period in Europe was between 1600 and 1700 and was characterized by music that was complex and highly ornamented. Organs and harpsichords were the 2 most popular keyboard instruments of the Baroque.
With the invention of the pianoforte, music became much more simplistic because of the ability to play with different dynamics. Ornaments were no longer needed. This was the beginning of the classical period.
As Cristofori's ideas spread across Europe, inventors in the 1700s added to the pianoforte in order to make it sound bigger, better, and louder. However, some of these designs were not a success.
By 1800, the pianoforte had made its way to America, where manufacturers such as Steinway & Sons, Chickering in Boston, Massachusetts, and Weber began to take charge. The Americans made some of the greatest improvements on the pianoforte.
Soon the name pianoforte was declared too lengthy and was quickly shortened to simply piano.
By 1775, the original Cristofori-style piano had spread into many countries. Now, this original design was being converted into a much more usable form. The Viennese piano had a light touch with a light hammer action, which made it perfect for quick repeating notes, often found in the works of Haydn and Mozart.
The English piano had a much heavier hammer action and the touch was less elastic. Where the Viennese piano was fragile, the English piano could be used in compositions with heavy crescendos and majestic chords.
Within these categories, different shapes of pianos were born.
The square piano was one of the most popular forms of the piano in the late 1700s and early 1800s. The square piano had the shape and construction of a clavichord and was created to take up less room in homes.
An iron frame for this piano was invented by 1825 so that the upper range of the piano could have heavier stringing, and cross-stringing created extra room in the soundbox.
Johann Schmidt of Salzburg, Austria, first produced the upright piano in 1780. Around 1800, John Isaac Hawkins of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, patented the upright piano with vertical strings.
The square piano stopped being manufactured because most people preferred the upright piano to the square piano. By 1860, the upright's heavier frame and 3 strings per note produced a superior tone and durability compared to past pianos.
The upright piano was popular, but had a stiff touch and the sound could not develop fully and freely because the strings were contained in the soundbox. Today, the upright piano is the most commonly used instrument.
In 1795, a piano with the same shape as the Cristofori piano was invented, but it had a superior sound quality. This was the grand piano.
The grand piano had a wing shape and a lid that directed the sound of the strings toward the audience. Therefore, it was used mostly for virtuosos and concert halls.
By this time, all piano manufacturers were building pianos with iron frames to better hold the strings and create a more durable piano. Steinway & Sons patented the full iron frame grand piano with a cross-strung scale. The modern concert grand piano is 7 1/3 octaves and 9 feet long. It has an elastic easy touch and a full round tone.
Some types of pianos that were experimented with along the way included the pyramid piano, the upright grand, the giraffe piano, and the cabinet piano.
The different pianos that were made through the years were based on demands made by the virtuosos of the time period. Johann Sebastian Bach wrote compositions for the pianoforte in its infancy.
Gottfried Silbermann built pianos based on Bach's criticisms. Johann Christian Bach was one of the most relevant composers for piano at the time and created propaganda for the piano that made it popular.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart began composing at the start of the classical period. He wrote many symphonies, orchestral, and piano works.
Mozart favored the pianos made by Johann Andreas Stein, which were known for their elasticity, their fragility, and ability to play many quick notes in order. Stein took suggestions from Mozart, which made his pianos some of the greatest ever made.
Ludwig van Beethoven's works for piano began in the style of Mozart and Haydn. He also preferred the Stein piano. As time went by, Beethoven became more and more emotional in his piano works, and these fragile pianos with limited octaves were not enough for him.
The compositions filling Beethoven's mind were strong, titanic, and forceful. This was the kind of piano he wanted. Finally, Nanette Streicher, a colleague of Stein's, built Beethoven a 6.5 octave piano, which suited his needs.
The composer Franz Liszt was considered the holy terror for piano makers because his colossal technique and powerful stroke on the keys demanded exceptional construction. Once at a recital, when he could not have the piano of his choice, the hammers inside the piano were smashed during the first chords.
Liszt required such strongly made pianos that many of the most prestigious piano manufacturers, like Steinway and Bosendorfer, switched to iron frames to suit his needs and earn his acclaim.
Many other composers, such as Clementi, Kramer, Pleyel, Weber, and Chopin, invested money in their piano-building company of choice so that they could have the perfect instrument desired for their art.
Since then, the piano has become a necessity of popular music. From Scott Joplin's ragtime music to the Beatles' rock and roll, the piano has played an important role in the development of all modern music.
Harold Burroughs Rhodes first invented the electric keyboard in 1946. It had 3.5 octaves and it built like an acoustic piano with strings and a sound box, but much smaller.
By 1965, Fender and Rhodes had joined forces and created the Suitcase 73, which was the first entirely electric keyboard.
Between the years of 1965 and 1980, the electric keyboard flourished in popularity and in development. The keyboards became less bulky and had better sound quality. They were used in almost every musical performance. Now you can find electric keyboards in almost every style, color, and brand. The piano of today continues to thrive as one of the most popular instruments to play in orchestras, rock bands, and as a solo instrument.
The composers that made use of the piano's potential still captivate us today in the simple music made beautiful by the piano's ability to create dynamic sound.
The modern grand piano is an essential instrument for every music hall. Its silhouette of sleek black creates a pure, clear sound that surrounds both listener and pianist alike.
Not only is the look and sound of the instrument important, but also that it symbolizes a turning point in music history that has caused music to evolve into what it is today.